What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
What's up, Fantasy Points? We are already to week 5 of the NFL season, week 5 of Outside the Box here with my friend Scott Barrett, CEO of Fantasy Points, master of dank stats. We're going to be going position by position as usual, poking holes in the chalk or maybe accepting the chalk if we think it's good, and then finding some off-the-wall plays as well. We're going to be at the end of the show making some lineups. Scott, how are we doing this Saturday?
I'm doing good. I love that chat. Pepper Tony, late. Shake my head. I blame Neil. And guess what? It was Neil.
He knows me too well.
He was taking a really long piss. I was telling Neil last time after the show, I like ran to go pee, and it was like a 3-minute pee. My favorite pee of all time. I went to I came out of the movie. It's like a super long movie. And I go to the urinal. No one's there. I start peeing. Someone comes next to me. They pee, flush, leave. Another guy comes in, pees, flush, leaves. And I just like say to myself, like, damn, I lapped you guys. Just like
king of the bathroom. You call
yourself
king of the bathroom when you're lapping people like that.
I'm like a camel, dude. Road trips, I can go a really long time without peeing.
I'm super like inconsistent with it. Like there are days where I feel like I have to pee every 15 minutes, and then there are days where I can just like drink water constantly, like especially if I'm like out drinking or something, and it'll be 5 hours, and then I'm like I've had 4 beers and I haven't had to pee yet. So it's really I never know what the factors are that make me either really need to pee or be able to hold it quite a while. Should we just talk about pee for the rest of the show? What do you think? Do people really care about the football, or do you just want to turn this into a urine show?
You know, asparagus can make your pee smell funny.
I love it when my pee smells funny after I eat asparagus. Yeah. That to me is a big bonus of asparagus.
Wow.
So we introduced the show us your best lineups. Whoever has the best lineup can win merch from the Fantasy Points store last week, and we didn't really talk about it since, except for I believe Matt Butler was the winner.
He also would have won it the week before that too, despite some horrific run bad.
Yeah, he had some. So he's on a little bit of a run. So Matt Butler and Austin, you can reach out to Scott and tell him what you want from the Fantasy Points store. But the rest of you, I think you can only win it once, right? Per season. I assume do we have a limit there? It's totally up to you.
I don't know. He probably not. Maybe he could save it and then like upgrade for a sweatshirt if he wins again this week.
Okay. All right.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
we'll be generous.
Let us know. Let us know what you win anyway, and Scott will be generous. But for the rest of you, if you want to win some Fantasy Points merchandise, just have to show us your best lineup. Whoever wins the most money from the show with a single line, whoever wins the most money with their best lineup, taking advice from the show, give us a shout out on social media to both myself and Scott and the Fantasy Points main channel, and you can win merch from the Fantasy Points store. Which is some of my favorite merch. I still love the hat. It's around here somewhere. I've switched to the Flannelverse app, but I'll be working it back in again now that I've worn this one enough. Scott, should we start going position by position here?
Well, you have to ask me how my week 4 was.
Yeah, that is. You're right. How did week 4 go for you?
Well, I talked you off of Drake London, Michael Penix stacks. So how did your week 4? Probably not as good as if you just ignored me on Atlanta.
You didn't really talk me off it. So I definitely was higher on it until prior to talking to you. So I did cut it back a little bit, but I still had some. But the problem with them was all of mine also had Darnell Mooney. Like I was really in on, after Mooney saw 11 targets the week prior, I was also really in on Mooney. So yeah, that did not go well for me because I had some lineups that looked really good for a while. And then because of Mooney, got hurt in the second quarter, that kind of tanked all of my Atlanta stacks. So ended up not being my best week. Never really had a great sweat. Had my best sweat, of course, was in the cage match, which I ended up losing again. So 2 weeks in a row.
Not to Jake, right?
Not to Jake. No, not to Jake, thankfully. Yeah. Anyway, we will move on to this week.
So I wanted to, before we do, I wanted to say, yeah. So I think I had some bad calls. I also ran bad. Had like 100% Jackson Dart, so a ton of Malik Neighbors. Tommy Tremble was a great call. He just became inches away from another touchdown, had a 4.9 point play, wiped off the board due to penalty. The Adonai Mitchell, doing the most Adonai Mitchell thing ever.
Yeah.
So I didn't deserve to win money, but I actually won a really good amount of money this week. And so I thought it was important for me to kind of talk about my process. I go off the wall, like more so than Neil by a pretty good margin. But I sort of maybe cover my bases in that on DraftKings, whoever the chalkiest quarterback is on the slate, no matter how good of a play they are, I'm not going to play them. I need to get different. And, I'm going to be intentional about fading the chalk, looking for some of these off the wall, sub 5% owned plays. But on FanDuel, I don't do that. I basically just play the fantasy points optimal lineup. I do it for the main slate, for the 1 p.m. and the 4 p.m. And I've basically, I don't think there's a single tournament I've entered where I didn't win money on FanDuel this year. I don't know if it's just FanDuel's easier or if it's just that our projections are killing. And to be fair, they are killing. Right now in 2025, we have the most accurate projections in the space. So that is a massive edge. And even if we didn't have the most accurate, if we just had the second most accurate, like we did last year, Chris Weck's first year ever doing or taking over this projection czar role, and still a massive advantage. Why? Because ETR is like 10 times the size of us. Like in terms of people entering lineups into GPPs, the blitz is probably like 3 times the size of us or whatever. So not only do you have the most accurate projections if you're using fantasy points projections, but you also have unique projections. And so I think that's a tremendous edge. And yeah, no surprise we have the most accurate projections. Chris Wecht is a genius. This is like, I talk about power law players, as a power law employee who's just like an absolute freak of nature. And we have the power of the fantasy points data suite. So when you have the best data in football, you're going to have the most accurate projections. So yeah, that's what I do. And this is sort of like an insurance strategy, right? So in the weeks where like the chalk hits, I'm going to do well on FanDuel. And in weeks where, the chalk doesn't hit, I'm going to crush on DraftKings, hopefully, finishing first in a tournament. So this has been what's working for me, and it's something I'm going to stick with. So yeah, this is three straight profitable weeks in a row. Yeah, that's something for you guys to consider as well. If you want to embrace my more contrarian approach, but hedge a little bit on FanDuel.
Yeah, no, I like that approach. 3 straight profitable weeks is that's really impressive in 2025. Yeah, something. I mean, obviously, with multi-enter in 150, you're not going to have as many winning weeks. But regardless, just like having 3 consecutive winning weeks in DFS, super difficult to do. So that is pretty impressive of you. I'm shocked to hear you say that you're more contrarian than I am, because I feel like I'm extremely contrarian, but yeah, maybe it's true.
Or maybe I'm wrong. I think it's just because you're an MME guy, so like
yeah,
you'll be like, oh well, I'll have 15% instead of 30%. Where I'm like, well, I'm full fading.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe you are actually more like I have the occasional off the wall plays, but like I'm usually leaning into chalk. So like I probably don't have as many like total low owned lineups like you do. So yeah, you're probably right that you are overall more contrarian than I am. Regardless, let's get into enough about this. Oh, I didn't pull up the wrong pages here. I didn't pull up the let's pull up the projections page is what I had meant to pull up here. So give me a second.
So it's in the projections and rankings tab.
Yeah, there it is. Never, this is my first time. Apologies.
Oh, yeah.
First time doing this. All right, we're going to start with quarterbacks. We're going to start at the chalkiest. Here we go. So starting from the top in terms of ownership, Justin Fields is the chalk on this slate. Super bummed to see Justin Herbert. He was pretty contrarian to start the week. I was talking about him a lot, and now he's just moved up and up to, at this point, now the second most chalky quarterback on the slate. And then Kyler Murray we've got at 10%. So let's start with those 3 in double digits. How are you feeling about Fields, Herbert, and Kyler Murray?
Well, Kyler Murray's easy. I just never play Kyler Murray. So if he's one of the top 3 chalkiest quarterbacks of the slate, very happy to get away from that. Justin Fields is more difficult. So you're seeing 14% Fields, 12% Herbert, 10% Kyler Murray. To me, I think it should be like 30% Justin Fields. Like he's just so much of a better play than Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray or really any other quarterback. But like I said, I have that rule. I don't play the chalkiest quarterback in any given week. And honestly, I do think this 14% is low. I think it's going to be closer to 16% in the milli and obviously much higher in smaller field tournaments. Fields, an elite play. It's just the nuts matchup. We're going to be playing quarterbacks against Dallas every single week. You also have Fields, who this season has only played in 2 full games. He's scored 28 plus DraftKings fantasy points in both of those games, even zooming out across a larger sample, really posting those tournament winning scores at one of the highest rates among any quarterback. He is the best quarterback play of the slate. Factor in ownership, factor in my rules. I'll be looking for excuses to get away from it. And the excuse I could find here, and again, we're intentionally trying to find like schematic matches ups don't change the fact that he's the best play. It's just we're looking for pathways to failure. And one potential pathway to failure beyond just Fields being one of the most volatile quarterbacks in fantasy is that he's not a good pocket passer. He's really hyper mobile, and that's why he's great for fantasy. This isn't a good schematic matchup. The Dallas Cowboys are playing man coverage at the league's lowest rate in football. Below 6% of their defensive plays are man. They're just living in zone. And what do we know? We know that zone matchups limit rushing yards from quarterbacks. Why? Because in man, the defensive backs turn their backs to the quarterbacks, so it's easier for them to run and pick up yards. So Dallas is going to be living in zone coverage, and you do see this bear out in the numbers. Right now, Justin Fields leads all quarterbacks in fantasy points per dropback. Against man coverage, it's orders of magnitude greater than the next closest quarterback. But against zone coverage, he ranks just 27th in fantasy points per dropback, tied with Spencer Rattler. So, maybe this week you bump your exposure to a Breece Hall as potential leverage. Braylon Allen no longer playing, or Javonte Williams, or a more contrarian Dak Prescott. The Jets defense is also really bad. Dak Prescott is playing at a really high level. So that's what you could do. But yeah, in a vacuum, Justin Fields, factor in the zone coverage thing I just mentioned, is still for sure the best value. Like sort by fantasy points per dollar, no one's touching him. He's at 4. I think next closest is 3.4. So great play. But just based on how I play, I probably wouldn't have him this week, unless it's like a double spy lineup. But even then,
yeah, more of an MME play to me. Like probably would not be my single entry because he's just going to be too high owned in single entry contests as the chalk. So I'm with you in that. I'm certainly going to be underweight to the field. I'll obviously have some in a 150 set. Trying to lower the risk in my portfolio. Don't want to completely fade the chalk, but yeah, certainly going to be under the weight on Fields. Justin Herbert to me is the player that I'm most excited about, even at 12%. Like I think I want to be well above the field there. How are you feeling about Herbert?
I like Herbert. I don't know that I like him as the second chalkiest quarterback of the slate. The argument for him is you have the league's biggest pass funnel offense going up against one of the biggest pass funnel defenses. At the very least, they've been much tougher against the running, the ground game this year, and much softer through the air. Herbert, I was saying a couple of weeks ago, I think he's the MVP front runner. These wide receivers look amazing. They're all popping his values. And certainly, this week he has the 3rd highest implied point total on the slate. But the devil's advocate argument is you have Joe Alt out, you have Mekhi Becton questionable. And so if Becton's out, especially, and I don't think he's going to play, makes this riskier. So the first 2 weeks of the season, Herbert was seeing pressures at a below average rate. He was averaging 25.5 DraftKings fantasy points per game. Over the last 2 weeks, he leads the league in pressures per game, averaging only 16.6 DraftKings fantasy points per game. Giants defense really poor outside of that defensive line. and he really struggled to get anything going. So I think that's a concern, a very valid one. And you're looking at 12% ownership. I think there's better plays. This is something we didn't talk about, Neil, is sort of the zoom out macro. What does this week look like? This is a week that I keep hearing is a very difficult week. These are historically, our time to shine, right? When weeks are easy, it's tougher for me. We cede a little bit of an edge. When it's tougher, I think we gain an edge. So you're hearing that. You're hearing a lot of people with lukewarm takes. I don't really know. And so I think this is a great week to lean into lower ownership plays and try and get away from the chalkier options where it really does feel like people are lukewarm on a Justin Herbert. They're just going there because that's what the Sims are telling them. That's what, their projections, which are worse than ours, are telling them. So I think this is a great week to look elsewhere, and in particular, look at some of these sub 5% plays.
I actually I'm coming at it from the opposite point of view, where I love Justin Herbert from the start just because of the matchup with Washington. It's just like Washington, they got absolutely destroyed by Tucker Kraft, by Trey Tucker, by Atlanta. Like this defense just continues to be such a big pass funnel. So then you laid out the bull case is just Justin Herbert, biggest pass funnel offense in the league. People are going to be distracted by Omari and Hampton this week, who did really well in the best possible matchup last week, but we haven't really seen him succeed that much outside of it. So I kind of just expect the Chargers to lean into the pass this week in an awesome matchup against the Commanders. And then I ran the Sims and got like 2% Justin Herbert. So it was actually the Sims were not giving me Justin Herbert. It was my take that I love Justin Herbert in this matchup this week. But I certainly agree with you that the entire offensive line being out sucks. Like they already lost Rashawn Slater to start the season. They're just like they're losing all of their offensive line. So yeah, the whole offensive line being banged up, obviously a pretty big deal here. Does make me a little bit more concerned, obviously, than I would have been if all the offensive linemen were healthy. So it would have been, honestly, at 12% ownership with a fully healthy offensive line, I might play 40% Justin Herbert and just stack it up every which way. With the offensive line being banged up, it might be more like 20% for me. But yeah, the Sims are not, at least the Sims that I'm using. I'm guessing that some other Sims like him better and are giving him more often. But it's, to me, that was more of a personal option. And then you said Kyler Murray is easier. You're not really into Kyler Murray.
Yeah, you just not to move completely away from Justin Herbert. This, they don't have star power on the defensive line, and this is a bad pass defense, but they are leading the league in pressure rate right now, pressuring quarterbacks at nearly 50% of the time. So I think that is a bad matchup. And it's also like, yeah, he's a good play. I wrote him up, but why don't you wait to hear me pitch you on some of these other quarterbacks? I think I can maybe get you to concede that, oh, all right, you know what, maybe this guy at 150 ownership level offers more upside.
That I do hear. The ownership level has moved up, I think, every day this week for Justin Herbert. So he has become that's another reason he's gone from being like contrarian play that I love to like, all right, kind of chalky play. And I actually, again, I agree. Everything I've heard is like, oh, this is going to be a low scoring week. Low scores are going to get there. It's kind of wide open. And I actually love a lot of spots on this slate. So I'm curious to hear if you and I are going to be loving the same spots. Obviously, running back, I think everybody loves a lot of spots, but at quarterback in particular, I think it's more wide open. So it's the problem for me is not that I'm lukewarm on takes, is that I really love a lot of different spots at quarterback, which that makes it more tough for me. But I want to hear who you love. I want to hear if we are on the same plays. I guess we can move down one more spot to Daniel Jones in terms of quarterback, somebody that you've been on in the past, and he's had a pretty good year so far. He's 5,800, still projected for 9% ownership. Are you getting to 2 dimes again this week?
Yeah, second highest implied point total this slate. Current QB4 by DraftKings fantasy points per game, by fantasy points per dropback. And his price is just the QB9. This is a great offensive environment. This is one of the biggest pass funnels in all of football. It is a legitimately great spot for a quarterback we know can, maybe mini Jalen Hurts inside the red zone with his ability to score rushing touchdowns. So yeah, I think he's a really strong play, but there's quarterbacks I like more.
Okay. Yeah. Dime's not one that I'm particularly trying to get to a ton of. Like, I want to have some exposure, but not a priority for me. Dak Prescott at 6%. Do you like that leverage on that game, playing it through Dak rather than Fields?
Yeah, I do like that angle. He's playing out of his mind. He ranks top 3 in every accuracy metric that Fantasy Points data has. And, that's kind of been the case throughout his whole career is, from an accuracy standpoint, I've always said, and, elite film minds such as Max Toscano have agreed with me on this. Number 1 most accurate quarterback, Joe Burrow, one of the most accurate quarterbacks, the most since Drew Brees. Number 2, Dak Prescott. And then there isn't really a close third, playing at a really high level. Just last week, 34 DraftKings fantasy points against the defense we all thought was easily the best in football. And now he's facing a Jets defense that is really not much worse than the Dallas Cowboys, at least based on the numbers. They rank 6th worst in fantasy points per dropback allowed, 3rd worst in EPA per dropback allowed. We know opposing quarterbacks in the same game are positively correlated. So, what if Breece Hall scores the touchdowns for the Jets? What if, Dallas's zone defense holds Fields in check on the ground? I don't know. All I know is this team looks like the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals with their hyper accurate quarterback, with their pass heavy offense, with their good pass catchers, and their awful defense. So I'm going to want exposure to this every single week. You could argue maybe CeeDee Lamb being out makes the stack more affordable. And so, yeah, I do like this. I will say keep an eye on Tyler Smith's status. We talked about Justin Herbert's offensive line being in shambles. Tyler Guyton is out. Tyler Booker's out. We're waiting on this Tyler Smith news. But yeah, good play. Not my favorite play, but yet another, I think under the radar, certainly relative to the other quarterback in the game, play this week.
What about the other, the same kind of angle you can play with Jaden Daniels? So, I'm liking Justin Herbert. Jaden Daniels coming in relatively low owned. We know that he has major upside, but not necessarily the best matchup. How are you feeling about Daniels at 7,000?
Yeah, I don't like it. We've talked about this before. This is one of my rules. I don't play guys who are hurt. And, he's playing this week. Maybe he's not totally hurt, but he's wearing a brace. And it's we're all watching what Brock Bowers is doing, looking like a shell of his former self. Coach Speak Index is calling him Brace Bowers. And I was talking to Edwin Porras, or injury expert, and he was saying quarterbacks coming back from this injury in their first game back see a 40% drop off in rushing yards. So that really sucks a lot of the value out of Jaden Daniels. So I'm not going to go there when he's one of the top 5 chalkiest quarterbacks on this week's slate.
Okay. Yep. All right. So some priorities for me, and I wonder if you are on, and he's actually the next most chalky, I guess. Jackson Dart, we've got at 5% ownership at 5,300. Are we leaning into the unknown with a rookie quarterback that we think is talented, that's going to be running a lot, and that has cheap pass catching weapons with Malik Neighbors out? How much interest do you have in Jackson Dart?
He's tough to stack is the issue. Is like, do you go with Darius Slayton, who saw double-digit targets in his 2 games without Malik Neighbors last year? Do you go with Wan'Dale Robinson, who I have a personal vendetta against, but is seeing deep targets this year and has a new expanded role? Or Theo Johnson, who was the most targeted player following Malik Neighbors' injury last week? Or do you blah, blah, blah? That's the tricky part, but I freaking love this dude. I went all in on him last week, and I think that was the smart move. I think that was the best quarterback play you could have made. With losing Malik Neighbors after 1 quarter, and then he picked up a hamstring injury in halfway through the 2nd quarter where he really stopped running unless he was inside the end zone. The dude went 13 for 20, the 111 passing yards and a touchdown, 10 rushing attempts on the ground for 54 yards and a score. 7 of those carries were designed. That's more than Drake May has all year. And like I said, almost all those were, just a quarter and a half before the hamstring injury. He's practicing in full. It looks like he's fine. And then it's also the New Orleans Saints defense. This is, I've said this 2 weeks in a row, is I want to be targeting this defense, the opposing quarterback against this defense every single week. Why? It's because, one, it's a really bad defense. I think they're bottom 7 in fantasy points per dropback allowed. So just controlling for pace of play and then factoring in Kellen Moore's frenzied pace of play, this is going to be the defense that I think leads the league in points allowed or combined points because of that frenzied pace. So I like Jackson Dart a lot this week. And like I said, stacking with the Giants is tricky, but maybe stacking on the Saints side isn't so tricky. Chris Olave looks like a great value. And there's also Juwan. There's also Rashid Shaheed, our old friend, in a good schematic matchup. So yeah, Dart is not my favorite quarterback in the slate, but certainly one of my favorite quarterbacks in the slate.
All right, we'll see if I can find your favorite. Is Sam Darnold up there for you in this matchup with Tampa defense that is pretty injured right now, missing some pieces? Then you, of course, I know you love JSN. You can play Cooper Kupp. How much interest do you have in Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I just don't see the need, right? Because you just play JSN, he soaks up all the fantasy points. And I'm not playing Cooper Kupp, who I think is washed. Maybe Torrey Holton is a guy, but I think there's better punts this week. Elijah Arroyo too. I think there's really good tight end value, so you don't need to chase that.
Jared Goff. I mean, everybody's expecting Detroit to score a ton of points, but nobody's playing Jared Goff at 6,500 in the nut matchup against Cincinnati. How much interest there?
Yeah. I think he's the best play at the quarterback position by far. I've been debating with going all in on it. It's just, to me, this reminds me of a few spots. It reminds me of week 2 where I did go all in on him and he made me a lot of money. Reminds me of that Jaguars game last year, the Jets game last year. We know he's much better at home than on the road. And only one of those games was on the road. But like, this is what the Lions do is, they don't do it every time, but they do it a lot. They're one of the best teams in football, one of the best offenses in football. They blow out their opposition. And there are games where Jared Goff is still throwing touchdown passes deep into the fourth quarter. And so all it would take is for this to be one of those spots. And, my instinct is telling me that it very well could be. We have the highest implied point total of the slate. The Cincinnati defense is maybe worst in the league. And, in similar spots, historically, implied point total 27 points or higher, Jared Goff has hit over 28 in 3 of 5 road games, and an even higher rate at home as well. So I think he's an amazing play. What are we showing? 3% ownership. That's absolutely stupid. I was debating whether or not to paywall this. But yeah, this one is just really bad. And it might be, I might just go all in on it. Like I said, I love Dart. I love some of these other guys, but and it's trickier for me because I'm a single entry guy, 3 max guy. You really have an edge over me in MME, but it really just looks like, and it is volatile. It is boom or bust, but you want to lean into that in tournaments. And to me, Goff really, really, really stands out as the best play.
All right. Well, we'll talk about how we're stacking up Goff, I guess, once we get to the other positions, because there's a lot of options for how to stack him up. But yeah, it stands out as a very strong play. We do have a lot of people asking, can you just stack Scattaboo with Dart? Can you just do that 2-man? Do you think Scattaboo is involved enough in the passing game for that to be the viable stack? Just those 2?
I'm worried they're pretty negatively correlated in a way. Scattaboo wasn't with Russell Wilson, just in the sense that Jackson Dart, a scrambling quarterback, probably is going to target running backs less frequently. He's also has the potential to vulture inside the red zone. You did see him getting some design runs inside the red zone last week. So I personally wouldn't go that route.
Okay. There are only 2 other quarterbacks that I am super in on this week, and they are my gross quarterbacks of the week. Carolina, Miami. I'm taking both quarterbacks, Bryce Young and Tua Tagovailoa. I am going to play that game as though it goes the right way. I think there's a wide range of outcomes for how that game could go. It could be super gross, no scoring, Or it could be both teams, these defenses are not great. It could be that the quarterbacks surprise us a little bit and score a lot of points here. So I'm leaning in on the Miami Carolina game. Do you have any interest in that one?
Yeah, believe it or not, I really do. I'm pretty excited about Bryce Young. I never imagined myself saying that, but historically, like I might have made my most money on like the grossest quarterbacks I could think of that week. And like here's a mind-blowing stat for you. Bryce Young, who is awful, has scored over 26 DraftKings fantasy points in 3 of his last 7 games. CJ Stroud across his entire career has only 3 such games. And he has the nuts matchup. The Dolphins are giving up the most fantasy points per dropback to opposing quarterbacks by, 15% more than the Cowboys, which, I don't think a lot of people know that. And the stack is there's really good upside to the stack with Ted McMillan, who this offseason I was saying was the Exodia of all Exodias. He's not producing like it, but by just the eye test, he looks like a top 12 wide receiver in the NFL. Rico Dowdle, an extreme value. Tommy Tremble, who paid off in a big way for us last week and really should have scored an extra 11 fantasy points on top of that. So I like Bryce Young stacks quite a bit. This looks to me like one of those good old fashioned slot fests where it's 2 bad offenses, but really bad defenses. So points get put up on the board.
These are fun. These are always my favorite games to target where nobody wants it because they're like, I don't want to play Carolina or Miami. And then it's like, yeah, but they can surprise you in these matchups.
Part of the issue is there's not really a ton of people, a ton of players to pay up for. Although I might disagree with that personally, but certainly by the way our projections look, that is the case. Like there's no CMC this week. There's no Puka this week, but
true. Yeah, you do take away some of those options. But I think that we have some like decent pay up options in this game in particular. We've got one sort of pay up. Any other priorities for you at quarterback? I guess somebody brought up CJ Stroud, who's somebody that has been brought up on shows that I've been on. Any interest in CJ Stroud at 5,200?
Yeah, so I'm a hater on CJ Stroud. There's some of these guys where like, Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, CJ Stroud, Geno Smith. I've just always argued are, overrated, and I've gotten a lot of heat for that at different points, although less so recently. And so like I'm never really trying to play CJ Stroud, but this looks like the ultimate spot. And particularly on FanDuel, where he's an even better value, I like CJ Stroud a lot. He looks broken. This is an all-time bad offensive line, but he's at home. His home road splits are worse than Jared Goff's. No one ever talks about it, but his home road splits worse than Jared Goff's. Nico's up there with the Amari Cooper, Justin Jeffersons of the world. They're at home, and this is a perfect matchup, or at least it looks like that to me. This defense maybe going into week 1 looked good or decent on paper, but listen to all these players who are hurt. Marlon Humphrey, Chidobe Awuzie, Kyle Hamilton, Odafe Owe, Roquan Smith, Nate Wiggins, Nnamdi Madubuike, Jerry Alexander's barely played. So you have 3 starters on defense, 3 starters in the secondary, a linebacker, really all of their best players. And if Kyle Hamilton is out, currently questionable, it's just like game over. This is probably the best matchup CJ Stroud will ever have in his entire career, is how bad this Baltimore Ravens defense is. And so it's really now or never. So yeah, I like him. I like him quite a bit. I will just say you're seeing our projections like Dalton Schultz, and I'm just going to ignore it. And then you're seeing a 3-way committee for the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 role. So it could be something similar to Sam Darnold, where it's just you play JSN and you kind of don't need the stat. You play Nico, and you don't need the quarterback. But certainly, yeah. I like CJ Stroud this week.
See, I was planning on leaning into Christian Kirk a little bit this week also. So far, 5th best matchup for slot receivers. Kirk, not running every route, but he's been targeted a fair amount in his 2 games so far. So I have some interest there. I guess we can talk about that when we get to receivers. But that's the only other like option that I am sort of considering in that stack. All right. Any no Baker for you this week?
He was on the list. I mean, he wasn't in my slate breakdown, but someone I'm considering. So is Spencer Rattler. Both were written up by Ryan Heath because they have elite schematic matchups this week. Two of the top Ryan Heath conviction calls. Ryan Heath, one of the best analysts in the game. His article, Advanced Matchups, is free this week only. This is one of our best articles. Really, you just pay for a premium subscription, you tail his bets, and then the subscription pays for itself in a week or two. So yeah, I mean, Ryan Heath is really bullish on them. They're drawing minimal ownership. I was actually, I very pessimistic on Chris Godwin coming into the week. But all of our charters told me he actually looked a lot better than certainly his yards per target would have told you. So I think that's an interesting angle. Dub stacks there. I like that game, the Saints game. So, and less people are going to be on Spencer Rattler. And you could stack on 3 receivers popping as values, but ultimately didn't make my pool. I don't like disagreeing with Ryan Heath, but just barely missed my list.
Yeah, similarly, Squirrel Patrol brought up Spencer Rattler on a show that we did together, and he's not somebody I love to disagree with. But I just have too many priorities. Like, he's pretty far down the list. I'm not sure that I need to play any Spencer Rattler. So maybe those guys will just win the money this week instead. But I have the players the quarterbacks I want to lean into already. So we're going to move on to running backs. But I want to remind people, please do like the video if you have not already done so. We've got 253 people watching. I think we have under 100 likes still. So would appreciate if you would like the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the Fantasy Points YouTube channel if you're not already. And when you sign up at Fantasy Points, which if you haven't already done so, I mean, what are you doing? It is week 5. It's time to sign up at Fantasy Points. Use promo code OTB15. You can sign up for the data suite if you want that. If you just want some great content, there are other options. NFL Premium, what I would recommend as far as the content as well. Lots to sign up for at Fantasy Points. OTB 15. And then we also got a question. Scott J. Nevy asks, how do we show you guys our best lineup on Twitter? Right, Scott, was that the
yeah, just screenshot and send at us on Twitter. Neil Orfield, Scott Barrett, Fantasy Points.
Yep, I'm at Player QDFS. He is at Scott Barrett DFB, and then Fantasy Points main handle. I think you don't spell out points, but I don't remember exactly what it is. Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to running backs, where we do have. I mean, the ownership projections here. I've seen them even higher some other places, but we have several running backs coming in over 20%. So I guess, flattened out over time because we're just getting more and more running back plays that look pretty good. Devin Achane, so one of our spend ups from that, the only spend up from that Miami Carolina game at 7,300 with no Tyreek Hill. Let's just start with Achane. How much interest do you have in actually, no, let's break it down with the expensive trio. So we've got Devin Achane, Jonathan Taylor, and then Jahmyr Gibbs as kind of the 3 that are somewhat chalky. I guess we've got Saquon here coming at 16% also. But those 3 I think are kind of in their own tier is the way most people are sort of breaking it down this week. So Achane, Jonathan Taylor, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Do you have a favorite of that trio? Anybody that you're fading? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, remember, I'm always looking for a reason to fade the chalk, but that's least true of the running back position. Historically, chalk does really well, and it's just about always in line with like where I would rank it. So I'm not looking to get away from running backs as often as I am with quarterbacks and stacks and receivers, tight ends, perhaps especially tight ends. But yeah, that looks good to me. Achane, his rushing efficiency more in line with his rookie season than last year. He's hit 5.0 yards per carry in 3 of 4 games. He has a crazy 21% target share, and now Tyreek's out for the season. So you have a player, with this usage, the target share and the carries is like rivals really only Christian McCaffrey and Bijan, to be fair, and in an A+ matchup. So yeah, I think he justifiably stands out as the top play. You have Jonathan Taylor, this year's Saquon Barkley. looks like an absolute freak. This offense looks totally like the real deal, and Vegas is treating it as such. Third highest implied point total of the slate. That said, it is a pass funnel spot, and you do have a quarterback who vultures touchdowns, and now you have a tight end who vultures touchdowns. But still, no doubt, an amazing play. Really has that ability, like Saquon last year, Derrick Henry, to just rip off these 65-yard runs for a touchdown to bury you. Jahmyr Gibbs, this is an unreal spot. Should go nuclear. One little note I have is I don't know that I like him considerably more than David Montgomery, who's 1,500 cheaper, significantly lesser owned. But this spot is so unreal. It really could be one of the rare once a season spots where you could play both running backs and find success. But yeah, that's how I'm seeing those three chalkier options.
Okay. Yeah. So we're liking the chalk at running back a fair amount. And then beyond those three, I mean, we have several cheap options, but let's just move down the list. So we haven't touched on Rachaad White is 4,700 projected for 24% ownership. Breece Hall is 5,600 projected for 22% ownership. Omari Hampton 20% at 6,500, and Rico Dowdle is 4,300 projected for 20% ownership. So let's at least talk about all of the guys that are projected for 20+% ownership. You can start wherever you want. Let's move in this
you could
top
lead it.
ranking.
Who would you like me to start with?
Let's start with Rachaad White. So he's getting 24% ownership. Kind of a tough matchup here, I think, with Seattle. But if he's getting the passing game work, do you expect him to step into a significant? Do you expect him to step into the Bucky Irving role, or do you think Sean Tucker is going to cut into it and it's going to be closer to 55-45 split than it was when it was Bucky Irving as the lead back?
So Greg Auman, Tampa Bay beat writer, is saying he's expecting basically Rachaad White's role to remain relatively unchanged, where this is going to be a game script committee. This is going to be a workhorse v scat backs committee, where Sean Tucker leads the backfield in carries and Rachaad White leads the backfield in targets. We're not seeing it that way. We're seeing, and by the way, there has been an extreme amount of hype on Sean Tucker. Matthew Berry and his what I'm hearing at the Combine article, which is really good, really predictive. He basically goes to the Combine and schmoozes with GMs and coaches, was saying the team loves Sean Tucker. The team, thinks he would be a starter on 12 other teams, but he's just an RB3 for them. So that's a vintage Neil play is Sean Tucker this week. But I disagree with that. Our projections disagree with it. We're predicting basically a 65-35 split, but that's a valuable role for a player who's really efficient, really good in the passing game. This is right now the 7th most valuable backfield in fantasy. I think it was the 2nd most last year. And so, yeah, this is pretty good value. I don't think I would have him top 3. Certainly not in my own lineups, but he is good value.
Okay. So here's what I also want to talk about. I kind of want to talk about it within the context of all of these new starting running backs as a result of injury. So we've got Rachaad White, we've got Rico Dowdle is just 4,300 with Chuba Hubbard out, and then we've got both of the Arizona guys in Michael Carter and Amari DiMercado. Carter projected for just 6% ownership at 4,000. Amari DiMercado 4,700, not projected to get any ownership currently. Obviously Dowdle pretty chalky. How would you? I mean, it's sort of hard to rank them exactly because the ownership plays a factor. But what's your level of interest in all of these? Are you just going with the top 2? Do you have any interest in Michael Carter? Any interest in Amari DiMercado? And I guess let's start with the comparison of Rachaad White and Rico Dowdle. Who's your preference just between those two? Because they you can compare. They're both relatively cheap and getting a lot of ownership.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle is maybe the best play on the entire slate. So I don't know why he's showing ownership levels this low. He's an amazing play. I've heard people talk about him like he sucks ass. And I just have to disagree with that. Danny Kelly of the Ringer is I think the best running back evaluator in all of football. And we co-manage a ton of dynasty leagues together. So I've had a Rico freaking Dowdle on every dynasty league for like 6 years. I think he's got skill. I don't think Chuba Hubbard is considerably more talented. I think Dowdle, especially more talented as a pass catcher. You saw that in the preseason, Dowdle really getting that passing down work. Although Dave Canales prefers to have a bell cow, a running back who excels in both the running and passing game, is used in both facets of the game. So you're not tipping your play calling hand. But I think Dowdle is a good runner too, or at least an underrated one. Remember the Dallas Cowboys last year without Dak, how awful they were? Well, Dowdle hit the 100-yard rushing bonus in 4 of his last 6 games last year. And regardless of game script, regardless of this being an awful, awful offense, Dave Canales running backs smash. Right now, despite extreme negative game script in just about every game, and then a positive blowout in the other one where like they didn't have their foot on the gas at all, Carolina running backs ranked top 12 in running back carries and running back targets. And then last year, Chuba Hubbard, based on utilization, had one of the top 6 most valuable roles of any running back. The year before, Rachaad White, same thing. So I like this role. I think this is an underrated player. And then it's, one of the best matchups you could possibly have for a player who's only 4,300, who's showing as just the 7th most expensive, highest owned running back of the slate. So maybe he gets steamed, but to me, he's right now probably the best running back play out there.
And we talked about liking Bryce Young. I don't think I would do just those two together, Bryce Young with Rico Dowdle, but would certainly be willing to include Rico Dowdle in a Bryce Young stack. Like he was the passing game back. You expect him to continue to have a pretty big passing game role. What would you agree with that?
His usage was trending up as well.
Yeah. So yeah, looks good in stacks and outside of stacks. So then we kind of got those two covered. And then again, you've got both of the Arizona backs are coming in with basically no ownership. Michael Carter, we do have at 6%, but he's just 4,000. He says he's the starter. And then we have Amari DiMercato, 4,700. How much interest, if any, do you have in the Arizona backs?
Yeah, well, he doesn't just say he is the starter. Adam Schefter said the exact same thing on his podcast. So I think you have to treat that as real. This looks like a great matchup. Cardinals are 7.5-point favorites against an awful Tennessee Titans defense. So if he's showing 6%, or what is he showing? 6%, and all these other guys are in the 20% range, I think that's a great GPP play for you. And he's in even better value on FanDuel, although the ownership level is just as low. So he's another good, again, I really like Rico Dowdle. Maybe even potential lock play, but I guess not. If Michael Carter's showing 6%, it's good to maybe mix in some exposure there.
I guess this does go to your point of like, what do we pay up for? It is a little bit tough because it's like, so our favorite values are at running back, and then the only like good pay ups. Well, we'll look at, there are a few good ones elsewhere, but a lot of the good pay ups are also at running back. So then it's like, where do you pay up? I guess we can talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase, some of the others. Like we do have some pay ups, but they're not like slam dunks across the board relative to some cheaper players. So it is an interesting slate from a like a pricing dynamic standpoint. But yeah, I think Michael Carter, agreed. He's somebody that I'm prioritizing a little bit. But let's move back to a little bit of the chalk. So Breece Hall, 5,600 projected for 22% ownership. How much interest do you have there?
Yeah, this is such a running back in the flex week, huh?
Yeah.
So saw a massively expanded role last week after Braylon Allen got hurt. Allen was really dominating usage inside the red zone, capping Hall's touchdown upside. You take him out of the picture, this becomes a way more valuable role, and obviously elite matchup against this Dallas Cowboys defense. Maybe doubles this leverage against the Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson stack, or Pickens, Ferguson potentially. But he's another really good value, a really good play in the slate.
Yep. Omari and Hampton, 6,500, 20% projected ownership. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think he's another good running back to consider. I will say I am really worried about this offensive line. Joe Alt out, Mekhi Becton questionable. To mitigate that somewhat, he is seeing really good usage as a pass catcher. And he was a great pass catcher in college. 6 targets, about 48 receiving yards per game the last 2 weeks. Uber bell cow usage without Najee Harris. The efficiency production has been there these last 2 weeks. 3rd highest implied point total. Yet another really strong value. Someone's talking about Trevor Etienne. Trevor Etienne has really just been a special teams guy, has barely played. Theoretically, like could get the passing down role, but this wasn't a prospect I was at all high on. And I don't know. I think Dave Canales, that's part of the thesis, is he really likes it to be one guy.
Yeah, that is a very Neil-esque play where it's like an uncertain situation, play the backup running back in a good matchup at a cheaper price tag. But then in this case, like the starter also has the cheap price tag, so it's a little bit tougher.
What happens if a sub, sends the screenshot, the win like 25K with a Neil-ass play on it? Should we get them a Neil-ass play shirt?
yeah, we should give him fantasy points Neil-ass play. I don't know. Yeah, great idea. Love that idea. I don't know, like Trevor Etienne, not somebody that I was planning on bringing up. I don't hate the play, but I think you made kind of I don't know how much we can expect there. And then also Rico Dowdle's not actually that much more expensive, so it's a little bit thinner than it sometimes is. But I don't hate that. Hoping that Trevor Etienne plays a little bit. Are you getting to any Saquon 7,500?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Saquon, honestly, Hampton to me also, if he's getting 20% ownership, to me, it's like he has not actually looked that great to me in general.
Well, this has been Brett Whitefield's take. I haven't checked back in with him, over a week, but he was a big Hampton guy. So was I. He was saying the film looked absolutely awful.
Yeah. That's kind of what I haven't watched all their games. I'm not a film bro, but just like the amount that I have watched of Hampton, because he's a guy that I draft a lot in best ball, so I am kind of like always interested. He hasn't looked that great except for against the Giants. He obviously looked great, but like everybody looks great against the Giants. So this is a spot where it's like we have so many great running back plays that if he's going to be chalky, that I'm just like, I don't know. Like this is a tough spot against Washington. So maybe I'm a little bit, I don't feel that bad being underweight, like maybe single digit ownership on for me, exposure for me on Hampton if he's going to be 20% owned, just because we have to find players that we can fade because there are so many that I like here. So I actually think that's going to be kind of a fade for me. Saquon, I'm going to be a bit underweight. What do we think of Scadaboo? Scadaboo, I'm kind of torn on. Actually, they're the same price tag in the same game. Kamara is the one that I'm really interested in because of the matchup again with the Giants, who have just been unable to stop the run completely. Now Kamara is cheaper than Cam Scadaboo, but not a bad matchup for Scadaboo either. And he also has been getting a lot of work. What do we feel? Who do you like better between Scadaboo and Kamara? And do you like them?
Scadaboo's a solid value on FanDuel. I love the guy. He's one of my, I have 100% exposure to him in redraft, a guy I was pounding the table for, but not really all that excited about him for DraftKings. Not excited about Alvin Kamara at all, just because, really you've seen the target share plummet, and then you've seen him losing early down work to Kendre Miller. So I'm not on that. I did want to shout out the chat for being absolutely hilarious. If producer Trey can hear me right now, maybe bring some of those comments up on the screen as they're there you go. Way to go, Mike Johnson.
Yeah, you can start selling Neil ass play flannels in the fantasy points.
We got to do it, man. Yeah,
like it. Man, I'm bummed to hear that you're not in on Kamara, but not to the extent that you think you can play Kendre Miller.
No, I don't mess around with stuff like that. That's a Neil ass play for sure.
That is. I mean, it's not really, because a lot of people are going to be playing it, but I'll be playing Kamara. I think even if he is washed, I think this is just a spot where seemingly anybody can beat the Giants. So I will be leaning in on Kamara, and who knows, maybe Rattler targets him a little bit more. That's been kind of his downfall this year, not getting targeted as much. Peppertoni does bring up the downside though. Taysom Hill back this week and expected to have a role. We'll get to that with tight ends, but it does actually affect Kamara. That's actually a good point that I had not considered. the Taysom Hill effect on Alvin Kamara maybe does throw a little bit of cold water on it for me.
Dude, Taysom Hill, like, honestly, might be the biggest freak in NFL history. Like, we have had some absolute freaks of nature. The dude is 35 years old. He's coming back like 6 months ahead of schedule. He's played 5 different positions at an above average level. The dude is an absolute freak of nature.
I hate it. I hate it so much this time because I didn't draft him at all in best ball, because everybody was saying he was going to be out for the year. Like, oh, he's got a shot to return like by the fantasy playoffs. Like, yeah, a shot to return by the fantasy playoffs when he's 35. I'm not going to make that bet on Taysom Hill. He's coming back in week 5. Like this, nobody was saying he's going to be back in week 5. So I guess not many people draft him. Doesn't actually hurt me that much, but I feel dumb. Like, I feel like I should have just drafted all the Taysom Hill. If I had known that there was even a possibility he'd be back in week 5 going undrafted across best ball, like, he just feels like he would have been a smash here. But
well, it's a new regime, you know, and he didn't practice at all this offseason. So for any other player, I'd be like, oh, he's probably not going to be involved at all. But because it's Taysom Hill, like,
just don't know.
He's going to get 10 dropbacks, 10 targets, 10 carries, and 10 block punts because he's just nice like that.
They say he's going to have a role this week, so
that's crazy. We'll see. I didn't hear
that. Derrick Henry going up against Houston. This is one that on paper I see it and I'm like, well, this looks like an easy spot to fade. Talked about it with a friend of mine, Mathology, who was saying that he thinks it's actually a sneaky, not bad matchup for Derrick Henry because Houston, like, they're a really good defense, but it's because they're super fast, but they're small, and maybe Derrick Henry can just bully them. Do you think there's anything to that? Do you have any interest in Derrick Henry?
Yeah. Can you pull up the Ravens injury report?
Yeah.
So I wrote up Derrick Henry. I was like, he has uniquely high slate breaking upside. He's always lower owned than he should be. And without Lamar Jackson, like, they should just give him the ball 30 times. And then I spent more time looking at this injury report.
You mean just how many people are on it?
He might just be looking at a top 5 pick. Kyle Hamilton is questionable now. If Kyle Hamilton is out, that is like serious signal that it's just like good game. And like, you know, we don't play Derrick Henry unless there's, you know, positive projected game script. This looks awful. I mean, this should be like vintage Titans Derrick Henry, where even though the quarterback sucks, the offense sucks, the defense sucks, he still gets 30 carries and hits. But I wrote him up and I deleted just looking at how bad that injury report is.
Yeah, that is rough. I was looking for Derrick Henry's name on here because he told me to bring it up, and then I realized, oh, you just mean because everybody's on it except for him.
Yeah.
It looks gross. Yeah.
If you contrast it versus their like September 1st depth chart, it's like just everyone's red crossed out.
Yeah. Tony Tyjae Spears returning also for Tennessee. Do we have? I mean, does that just get rid of all the Tony Pollard? Yeah.
Yep.
Javonte Williams, 6,200. What are we thinking about Javonte? Is he contrarian enough in this game?
Dude, I think he's awesome. I think he should be up there with those 16-20% guys. What are we doing? Yeah. It's really just like bias, like off-season bias carrying over and not being willing to admit you were wrong. It's like, you know, not playing Quentin Johnston last week. The role is amazing. He's top 5 among running backs in XFP per game. By usage, by snap share, it's one of the top 5 highest implied point totals of the slate. It is the slate's biggest run funnel in the Jets. And yeah, I'm sure there's offensive line concerns, but dude should be 6,200, 9%. Looks legitimately great on film, is popping in all the advanced analytics. Shouldn't be 9%. He's a really good play. He also works as leverage off of a Justin Fields, off of some of these other guys. So he's a great play.
Yeah, pretty great workload here. Just under 16 carries per game, already 17 targets, more than 4 targets per game so far, and not a bad matchup. Yeah, it does seem like a fairly strong play. I think it's also like just the price tag is a little bit weird. It's like you've got these guys you want to pay up for, and then you've got the pay downs, and he's kind of right in the middle. So it's just kind of getting lost in all the other running back plays. But agreed, I think he's just, the workload is too good, and he's actually looked really good so far this year. I as somebody who did not draft him at all in best ball, after drafting him a ton last year, I was like, he's just not good. Like, he's clearly washed. And then you watch him this year, like, no, he actually looks like Josh Jacobs out there. Looks like a really good balanced running back out there. So yeah, that was a pretty big miss. Genty, Chase Brown, get into either of them?
Yeah, I think Genty's a good play. He's also another guy who kind of works as leverage. This was the greatest running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. He just scored 37.5 DraftKings fantasy points last week. Geno Smith has been a bottom 5 quarterback by every measure. Genty is the only thing working in the offense. So why wouldn't you just give him, all of the touches, just run the offense through him? Game script's not good. It's not a good matchup on paper, but if you want to dig deeper into it, the Colts rank bottom 5 in yards before contact per attempt. So, maybe it's actually better than we think. And it's really just game script limiting running back touches for Indianapolis opponents. I will say this is the worst offensive line in football, especially now without their left tackle, Colton Miller. But he's another guy who, we're showing 8%. I think he's deserving of a little bit more than that. Not as good of a play as Javonte for sure, but another really good play for sure. Better than Tony Pollard, better than Kamara by a lot. So there's that.
He's not better than Kamara, so you're wrong about that. But better than Tony Pollard, I'll give you that one.
Well, hey, there is the they're shopping Kamara narrative. Do you want to make him look good?
Oh yeah, Kamara's going to get 25 carries and 12 targets tomorrow. Thank you. You're helping my case now. Finally, Chase Brown. Are we playing him in any game stacks there or on his own?
I'm not, but
I'm not either. So we've got enough running back plays we like. We don't need to talk too much about the ones that we don't like. I kind of like Woody Marks. Baltimore so far has been a pretty nice matchup for running backs, the best in the NFL, particularly through the air, which is where Woody Marks really excels. Can I interest you in Woody Marks at 5,400?
Yeah, he's a great play. He's an awesome play. We've seen his snap share jump by about 10% every single week. Really good usage last week, 57% of the carries, 18% target share, all of the work inside the red zone. He had 119 yards from scrimmage, which is basically double, what Nick Chubb had in any single game. So why wouldn't you just keep giving him the ball? And this is a really great spot. What do we keep talking about? Look how awful this Ravens defense is. 3 starters hurt in the secondary, 3 starters hurt in the defensive line, a linebacker hurt as well. So it's going to be a great matchup for the Texans, whichever way they want to go with it.
All right. And then there's one running back that every piece of content that I have consumed or done is talking about David Montgomery, the narrative going back to Cincinnati, where he was
Can
born
you elaborate
and
on this? Can you tell them the whole story here?
Yeah, so I don't. I'll do my best. So Dave Montgomery, born and raised in Cincinnati, has not been back to Cincinnati maybe for his entire NFL career, or it's at least since his sister was in a car accident. She's paralyzed and has not been able to go watch him play. So this will be her first chance to be able to watch Dave Montgomery play in Cincinnati. Now he's, of course, 5,200 playing against, maybe the worst run defense out there. And he has Dan Campbell at coach. So the assumption is if anybody's going to get their player a touchdown, it's going to be Dave Montgomery. He's going to force Dave Montgomery to score a touchdown here is kind of the narrative. Are you buying the narrative, Scott? And regardless of the narrative, I mean, he's 5,200, nice matchup. How are you feeling about David Montgomery?
Yeah. So, I mean, if there's any coach who knows this and is going to work it into the game plan, it's Dan Campbell, really just an emotional guy, a former player, your player's coach. So I believe in the narrative, but even if you threw out the narrative, I would have written up David Montgomery as a great play. This is a nuts matchup, really doesn't get better than that. This, and we know the Lions can run up the scoreboard. I said earlier, this could be a spot where both running backs smash in a big way. But you have seen the backfield move more in favor of Montgomery. It started out 70-30, 70-30, 70-30 last week, 60-40. And Montgomery is deserving of more work. It's weird. It's he Freaky Friday'd with Jahmyr Gibbs, where now Gibbs is the volume guy who's less efficient, and Montgomery's the guy spelling him who's way more efficient. 5.7 yards per carry versus Gibbs 4.7, 5.0 yards per target versus Gibbs 3.8. And like I said, Brett Whitefield, I think, is the best film expert in the industry. certainly relative to like how many people actually know his name. And he's Detroit local. And so he was talking to me about this. He was like, David Montgomery right now is the better pass catcher. And I'm like, what? Like, that is so stupid. Jahmyr Gibbs, I comped based on the analytics to Alvin Kamara when he was coming out. He's so explosive. He could actually run real wide receiver routes, blah, blah, blah. He's like, everything you're saying is true. But in terms of reliability, dependability, knowing where he needs to be on the play, potential, running a route, but then like needs to block to spring Amon-Ra and all this, I think the Lions are better off having Montgomery getting more passing down work than Jahmyr Gibbs right now. And so, yeah, I think they have two great running backs. I think this is a great spot. You have the narrative, and he's showing 2%, whereas Gibbs is showing 30%. So I think Monty is a great play this week.
Yeah, I will just say there's 0% chance that he gets 2% ownership. I think this does not account for the narrative and
on the show.
Yeah. So he is being projected everywhere has him super low. My guess is that Dave Montgomery comes in at like 15% ownership, just because literally I have not consumed or done a piece of content where people are not talking about David Montgomery.
I actually haven't heard anyone mention David Montgomery. So.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I've also been on every piece of content that I've done, believe it or not. So I've brought it up, but I have consumed other content where people are bringing it up too. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I guess I haven't consumed that much content, so maybe there's not as many people talking about it as I think there are. But I know that like I did a show with Davis yesterday, and Davis brought it up immediately when we started talking about running backs. So he's talking about it. I think other people are talking about it as well.
It's a very Davis play, but it's legitimately a really good one this week. And yeah, this is what I was saying at the top. I could see a lot of ownership congregate around bad chalk just due to laziness and some other factors. I think this is a great week to kind of look at for those, 5%, 2% guys. Even if Montgomery comes in a little above that, he's not going to touch, a Jonathan Taylor or Jahmyr Gibbs.
The only player that I skipped over who's actually projected for any ownership is Kenneth Walker. So we might as well. Do you have any interest in Kenneth Walker?
No, I don't.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about wide receivers. Unless there's any other running back that I missed that you want to talk about.
No, I don't think so.
All right. We're going to talk about wide receivers. We've already talked about quarterbacks, so we can save a lot of the discussion, but I know you like JSN. You talked about you don't need to play Sam Darnold. You can just play JSN. How do you like him at 26% ownership? Where do you think he'll be relative to that?
Yeah, I really like him. I coming out of college, I was calling him Keenan Allen reincarnated. I was calling him the best prospect since Jamar Chase. And then Shane Waldron happened, and I started to doubt myself. My life was thrown into chaos. I started seeing a therapist. I was diagnosed with clinical denial. He's good at ball is the point I'm trying to make. And now this year in this offense, he's getting Puka Nacua usage. It's really in terms of utilization, usage, deployment, volume, I would really put it 1 Puka, 2 JSN. And now that Malik Neighbors is out for the year, I don't think there's a close third. So I was looking at this as a neutral matchup on paper, but now that Jamel Dean is out, Benjamin Morrison is out, I think this looks like a really good one. So I think, yeah, JSN, really good play, really awesome play. You're gonna play him in cash, really safe. Yeah.
Garrett Wilson, 6,100, 22% projected ownership. How much do you have interest in Garrett Wilson, and would you play him at all without Justin Fields? Would you play him naked, or would you always play Justin Fields in your Garrett Wilson stacks?
Yeah, so I wrote him up as a cash play. It's like the best on paper matchup there is, right? Dallas giving up 21.6 schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to wide receivers. So great match. It's also, and you just have a guy who ranks top 3 in target share, really the focal point of the offense. But me, I'm always looking for reasons to get away from the chalk. So I probably won't play him. And the excuse I'll come up with is, well, what did we see week 1? We saw AJ Brown get bracket coverage the entire game. What do we see what was it, week 2, week 3, we saw Malik Neighbors get bracket cut, and Malik Neighbors kind of went crazy. But like a lot of that was just like Russell Wilson, hyper accurate moon balls, and Malik Neighbors being elite at the game. But you did see, a lot of those touchdowns and big plays, there were like 2 cornerbacks draped all over him. So I'll fade him. I wrote him up as like the best, value for cash, but for tournaments, just philosophically, I'll be looking to get away from him.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's more of a like, I'll play him in some field stacks. I think I'm with you. Like I'll be underweight overall on Garrett Wilson, but play him in field stacks. He'll be, one of my top stacking partners with Justin Fields while being underweight overall. Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we talked about how much you love Jared Goff, and that there are a billion different ways you can stack them up. So let's talk about Detroit. Are you stacking Goff with Amon-Ra, with Jameson Williams? How are you planning on playing this?
Yeah, I like both guys a lot. You could really play anyone, which is, I'm going to go Onslaught, but that is one of the trickier things about Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is a great play. So Ryan Heath and I led off the Everything Report talking about maybe this sort of new meta in the NFL where, because of the change in the kickoff, you have better starting field position. And you are seeing this bear out in the numbers where teams are gaining more yards than in any other season in like 10 years. Why is that? It's just because there's fewer yards to gain. So what does this mean from a fantasy perspective? It means you should place a greater emphasis on guys who score touchdowns, and then also for quarterbacks who are greedy inside the red zone, as well as guys who, have big plays, on these bombs and whatnot. And so, Amon-Ra St. Brown has the most receiving touchdowns since the start of last season, 5 more than anyone not named Jamar Chase. But the usage and role is also really good. Puka Nacua is the only wide receiver with more receptions than him. And now he faces the worst defense in football behind the highest implied point total of the slate. He's a great play. We could talk about Jameson, but I'd rather move through the list and circle back to him later.
Okay, let's do that then. So moving down the chalk list, we have George Pickens projected for 16%, Deebo Samuel projected for 16%. Pickens is 6,600, Deebo is 6,300. How much interest do you have in both those guys?
George Pickens, I could be totally off base here, and this is just like an emotional thing, but I made him my in-season Exodia early last season, and I was buying into the hype that he's just like elite. You have all these former players, Greg Cosell saying he's like a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. He's mini Justin Jefferson. And like this year, I've just been shitting all over him. I've been saying he's maybe a really good NFL wide receiver, but he's overrated for fantasy. And, obviously he went nuclear last week, and I was above consensus on him in redraft. I don't know what it is. I just have this weird thing where I've been very critical of him, and maybe it's just like an emotional thing. I don't know, but he's no doubt a value. He's like a great value for cash. But for tournaments, I don't know. I think I'm more excited about Jake Ferguson by a lot, especially if Tyler Smith is out. He's currently questionable. I just like Pickens makes these, and I just said like end zone targets are really valuable in today's NFL, and he leads the league in end zone targets. So he does score touchdowns. He does that. He also makes sick catches. But I just kind of trust the Jake Ferguson PPR scam more. Like, I think that's more valuable, and I think that's better in this spot. He is getting a Sauce Gardner shadow. Gardner's been okay. A lot of DPIs, which like does hurt you for fantasy and has always hurt Pickens, but also Pickens is a lead against man and single high coverage. So Pickens, he's the most game scripted, the most shadow immune wide receiver since he's come into the league. Basically, this is just like, it's breaking my brain. So just ignore me on George Pickens, do whatever you want, and just pretend I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the Sauce Gardner shadow, which some people think is irrelevant. I can't remember who they played last week because it was a situation where I was a little bit afraid of it, and I don't remember how it actually went for me. But yeah, I don't have a great read on. I know that's one of those things that can change quite a bit year over year. Though, like sometimes a shadow corner is just elite and then stops everybody, and then the next year they completely fall apart. So we'll have to continue to monitor with Sauce Gardner. But yeah, we saw, like you said, George Pickens against what we thought was an elite Packers defense. Like they were just doing like Dak was doing the moon ball to Pickens, just throwing it up there and letting him go get it. And then of course he was capable of doing that. So maybe he can do it with Sauce Gardner. Debo Samuel is expected to play. I know you weren't that interested in Jane Daniels. You playing any Debo?
I don't really like him at this ownership. I just kind of question the upside. But yeah, he should be force fed the ball with Terry McLaurin and everyone else out, and the brace on Jaden Daniels. And, so maybe he's more of a pure pocket passer this week. But it doesn't really excite me.
Debra, we did talk about Sam Darnold. You're going to be even more sad when you learn that we did talk about Sam Darnold and Scott doesn't want to play him. Scott, this is going to be shocking to you, but the Eagles receivers not happy with their roles. Do you think that does anything to get them more targets this week? Is AJ Brown going to finally see more targets this week? He is 6,000 projected for 15% ownership. Devonta Smith, 5,000 projected for 6% ownership. Do we have any interest in the Eagles receivers?
We don't.
So I as I say this, I'm like, well, we're just talking about shadow coverage. If Patrick Surtain is on AJ Brown,
he's going to.
I mean, does Devonta Smith? We just had this exact same situation with Cincinnati against the same defense, where I really, on a showdown slate, I was really into getting to some T Higgins or actually a 2-game slate, because I was like, well, T Higgins is, kind of the squeaky wheel narrative. And then in that case, Jamar Chase going to be shadowed. So maybe T Higgins, and it didn't get there, but it almost did. Like early on, he was being targeted quite a bit. So maybe Devonta Smith at 5,000. I'm like a little bit talking myself into it, but you're not into it.
No. Dude, AJ Brown has had less than 30 yards in 3 of 4 games. Surtain just held Jamar Chase to 18 yards. So I'm not going to play AJ Brown at all. I did want to shout out Derek Brown of Fantasy Pros, who is in chat. He's yelling at me. He's saying Sauce isn't going to shadow because the Jets are playing more zone and too high coverage the last 2 weeks. Yeah. Basically, I just wasted like 5 minutes monologuing about George Pickens to say I have no freaking idea. So just ignore me on George Pickens. Play him in cash for tournaments. I don't know. Read Debro's The Primer.
Yeah,
he's breaking my brain, and it's been a 2-year thing with George Pickens. So just ignore me on that.
All right, read the primer and maybe get some Pickens. So yeah, I talked myself into a little bit of Devonta Smith, but still not the biggest priority. But at 5,000 seems okay to me.
And he's done nothing either. This is a team that wants to run the ball, and
yeah, but I don't care what they've done in past weeks. I care what they're going to do this week. And right now, they are mad about their usage. And AJ Brown going to be getting.
Yeah, you think he was happy about his usage last week, and now all of a sudden he's mad?
Well, now they're saying it out loud. Yeah, no, they clearly were not happy about their usage previously. We'll see what they can do about it. But the price tag and the 2 receiver with Patrick Surtain shadowing the top, just a little bit interested. But other higher priorities for me for sure. Let's talk about the Chargers receivers. I know you're not super into it in general, but Quentin Johnston 5,700 projected for 14% ownership. Keenan Allen 5,600 projected for 12% ownership. Ladd McConkey 5,500 projected for 11% ownership. This is a spot that I'm targeting heavily. But you're not as interested in the stack. Are you interested in any of the individual receivers?
Yeah, I like Quentin Johnston. I think, you just look at what he's done. We were talking about Patrick Surtain. Quentin Johnston had over 70 yards in that game. He's had over 70 yards in all 4 games. Surtain gave up the most yards he's given up to a wide receiver in over 2 years. That's a Debro stat. And yeah, and we talked about scoring touchdowns, right? So since the start of last season, only Amon-Ra, Jamar Chase, and Terry McLaurin have more receiving touchdowns since the start of last season. basically you just look at everything he's done. If his name were Marvin Harrison Jr. or Tommy Harrison or whatever, like we would be willing to pay $2K more to roster him, and no one wants to play him. And I think that's just due to the stink of his first 30 career games. And yeah, I think he's a good value. I question the upside when you have kind of three great wide receivers, but he's a really good play. Keenan Allen, I think, is a value, but I don't see the tournament winning upside. Lad McConkey, it's just been so rough. I'm not going to go there. People are saying, "Oh, it's a great slot matchup." Yeah, he had the nuts slot matchup last week as well, and back-to-back schematic matchups. And his volume is less and less each week, whereas Quentin Johnston's is rising each week. I probably won't, my 3 entry max or whatever. I'm not going to have any Chargers unless I go with the Herbert stack.
Yeah, and that's a spot where I'm obviously. Oh yeah, I mean, if you go with the Herbert stack, I'll be leading into it with. I think my first lineup will be a Herbert double. I don't know which way I'm going to go with it, but yeah, the target share down every week for Lad McConkey, not ideal from that standpoint. To me, it's like everybody's talking about it, and I would assume that Harbaugh hears it and wants to remedy that like everybody talking about like, oh, what's happened with Lad, and this is just the elite spot to just like do whatever you want against this Washington defense. But like you brought up the offensive line, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they just can't do whatever they want here, maybe they just need to get the ball where they can, but you'd think it'd be quicker routes maybe to the slot anyway, which benefits both of Lad and Keenan Allen. Also runs like 48% of his routes from the slot. So to me, all three are pretty big priorities. So I'll be playing a lot, but I hear you. I hear the concerns on the Chargers, and then there are some other spots to like. Also, Chris Olave is a guy that you've liked in the past. You expressed some interest in Spencer Rattler. You going to be stacking him with Olave?
Yeah, I'm going to go there. He ranks top 5 among all players, behind only Puka Nacua and XFP per game. His price is just a wide receiver 26 for context. And like, I know what everyone's going to say, and I know what everyone else says on podcasts, where it's just like, yeah, well, expected fantasy points won't feed my family. We need real fantasy points. I've just been in this game like too long to just like not just have this every week. Like I remember when this was, Joe Mixon, who was, basically, top 3 in XFP per game, RB 15 by salary every single week. And it didn't hit. And then he dropped like a 50 burger. And this looks like a great spot for it. Giants are giving up the second most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. So even if this is, Charlie Brown with the football, I'm just going to keep going there.
You need a new column that shows me expected fantasy points minus actual fantasy points per game to show me. I'm sure you have that somewhere.
We got to add that, but you can download the CSV, do it yourself. You could also use the filters to get to catchable XFP per game.
Okay.
And if you do that, it's still really high, because that's the thing is like Chris Olave is getting a lot of these short area targets too. So it's just weird how poorly this has gone. And having done this for many years, really as the guy who popularized XFP, I would stay true to the course and expect this to regress to the mean.
Yeah. Yep. One of these days we're going to see it. And maybe you just need Spencer Rattler. Nico Collins, 6,800 projected for 13% ownership. Sounded like you had more interest in that than Christian Kirk. How much interest in Nico Collins?
Yeah, he's the best wide receiver GPP play of the slate, I think.
Ooh, okay. I was not expecting that. To me, it's like, it seems fine. But yeah, you laid out like Baltimore's defense is completely broken. So is it broken enough that this offensive line is going to hold up?
So here is, so I think it is. Yes. I think it's also a home game, which really matters for him. He is an absolute freak of nature. He's another dream play though, Neil. So I need you to decode my dream here.
Yes. Okay.
Yesterday morning, I woke up, and the dream I had maybe 5-10 minutes before I woke up was Nico Collins was wide the F open. So we have like a +1 ass, +2 ass, +3 ass. This was a +3, a +8 ass. He was so insanely wide open, and CJ Stroud still couldn't hit him. It was an incompletion, and that was my dream. So maybe this was, I don't know if people think I make this up or not, but literally just like how consumed I am with football and how much I love this shit. If this is, my subconscious warning me, telling me to stay away. But to me, this just looks like such an elite spot that I think it's like a 180-yard, 1 touchdown Nico Collins game.
Scott, I wish I had been tracking your dreams so far to see how they have gone.
Well, the first one was, my wife was like, you kept saying Jaguars defense in your sleep. Jaguars defense out of nowhere, top 3 defense.
Yeah. Okay.
I forget what the other one was Scadaboo, right?
That's what I thought it was, Scadaboo. Yeah.
I forget the details.
Yeah. I interpret that as pretty bullish for Nico Collins.
But he dropped it. He didn't catch it.
Yeah, he didn't catch it.
You were watching film and fell asleep. It wasn't a dream.
Yeah, right. He didn't catch ownership. Maybe he didn't catch ownership. But he made the dream. So you want to play him, Scott? I'm not a psychologist. I do not have a lot of expertise in interpreting dreams, sadly. So maybe somebody in chat tell us what Scott.
Any Jungian analysts in chat?
Help you guys can help us out with this, because this is not my forte. I wanted to make a joke that it was a dream about wanting to have sex with your mother, but that was inappropriate. I'm not going to go Freudian with it. So I'll let chat carry it.
Yeah, that's why I asked for Jungian. So
yeah. Miami, Carolina, a game that both of us like. Are we going to Tetaroa McMillan? Are we going to Jalen Waddle? What are we doing? Are we going to any of Malik Washington? What's your interest here?
Yeah, I wrote up Waddle, and I really just didn't have a great lean on it. So I don't want to repeat the Pickens thing. You could say that, they paid him a lot of money. The one game we've ever seen where Tyreek missed, he had like 180 yards in 2 quarters on 15 routes. And then he was like a PPR scam guy before Tyreek got to town. And, they like him. They gave him all this money. And it's a good matchup. But the flip side of that is also like, this offense is so dysfunctional. And we know defensive coordinators are like, yeah, even though Tyreek Hill isn't putting up numbers, like he keeps us up at night, we have to game plan against him. And now he's out. And is it just game over? And so I really don't know. I wrote him up as a cash play because that's how he's projecting based on our projections. But he's someone I had difficulty reading. Tet McMillan. It just, he was my Exodia of all Exodias. I just really believe in the talent. Volume is really trending up. He ranks 2nd in air yardage share, 10th in target share over the last 2 weeks. I think he's a top 12 wide receiver already based on talent. Flip side of this is, and then on top of it, it's a nuts matchup. Miami's defense ranks ahead of only the Cowboys in EPA per drop back. I think you can nitpick some things where like, okay, Miami's defense is really bad, but also they're not giving up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers. It's also not a good schematic. Tet really a man beater, not as good against zone. This has been the case since college. But to me, no, it's still a great spot for a player I really like. Oh, is he on mute again?
No, I was going to. I just realized that I have a show, a stream, something coming out on my channel set at 4:00, and I don't want it to come out while I'm still on this show. So I was going to change that, but I forgot. I go to my channel now, and I set a video, and it plays it automatically when I go to my channel. So that started playing in my ear right when you stopped talking, and so I was just trying to turn myself off so that I could get back to the conversation here.
Right. Everyone would have had to do a shot and shot.
Yeah, I mean, I was also on mute, but I did not try to talk until I turned off mute. It was just a damn voice in my head. I was like, I don't know what's going on right now. Are we playing any Jamar Chase, T Higgins with Jake Brown at quarterback?
Yeah, so one of my notes earliest in the week is like, if against the Saints or something, like, I'm going to be really excited about Jake Browning's stats because like this is still like a really condensed offense with really talented playmakers. And dude, like, do you remember Josh Gordon going off with Brandon Weeden or DeAndre Hopkins going off with absolute scrubs, Jamar Chase could still absolutely smash. And I think Jake Browning is like not awful. I know the offensive line is. I still think he is among the best tournament winning ceiling of any player just because he's Jamar freaking Chase. And there's going to be lots of garbage time, prevent defense in the fourth quarter. But yeah, I'm not going to go there except for ... as a late swap option. So like I said, I'll have Amon-Ra on my Goff stacks. If it doesn't look great for me, maybe I can just late swap to Chase. But I wrote him up. He didn't make my cutoff.
I like that call. Like great late swap option on Chase. Zay Flowers, we doing that without Lamar? Is he too expensive for not having Lamar with that offense?
I think he would be the guy. And so he would probably be my lean over Derrick Henry, honestly, for CJ Stroud stacks if you want to bring back, but that's the only way I get to him.
You mentioned some interest in Chris Godwin potentially at 5,900 because the role is so good.
Yeah, he's a pretty good value on FanDuel, but I'm probably not going to play him this week. Ryan will have exposure to him though.
Okay.
Dude, 10 targets last week, top 10 in air yards. He was a little rusty, 2 bad drops, some bad luck. It didn't look as bad as I was expecting, but I'm not going to get there.
You wanted to wait to talk about JMO, but now is it time now to talk about JMO at 4,900? 5% ownership.
Yeah, you know what it probably is. Do you think I like him or do you think I hate him?
I think you love him.
I do really like him, especially at this ownership. So he led all wide receivers in air yards last week. He had almost 50 more than the next closest. He had 8 targets, 214 air yards. Only finished with 5.6 fantasy points. This was 2 weeks after he had 19 on just 4 targets. And that's really just the nature of his role. 20.9 ADOT, insane. No screens, no easy looks. Just a 17.5% first read target share. Wide receiver 57 first read target share. And to me, it's just like, what does all this mean? Is he's an elite GPP play every single week as a function of the role. Last week, he didn't catch any of his 5 deep targets. If he caught 3 of them, he would have broke the slate. So great GPP play every week, perhaps especially this week. I can see this as being like, let's a spot to get him going, a good get right spot. I think you saw that with RJ Harvey last week. Sorry, D-Bro. I love RJ Harvey. He was one of my top guys. He did not play well last week, according to a number of our charters, where, he dropped a near touchdown. He did this, he did that. He also missed some glaring holes, and Sean Payton stuck with him despite J.K. Dobbins really outplaying him. Why? Because the game was never in question. They knew they were going to win. It's an awful defense. Hey, let's it's like training wheels, right? Let's build the confidence against the Bengals. So that's a narrative for you at play. He's actually not my favorite sub 5K wide receiver, but he's very close to being my favorite.
Okay,
well, I guess
we'll see.
My ownership, he probably will be just because I love Jared Goff, but for one,
okay. All right. By ownership, you do like him the best, sub 5K receiver. So then I need to scroll up and see if there's somebody under 5K that I missed. There's nobody who's higher owned that I missed who is 5K or lower. We did get a couple questions in chat, players that I skipped over. So if I ever skip over anybody wants to hear your thoughts on every player, Scott. Jacoby Myers, we do have Brock Bowers out now. So I would assume the ownership goes up a little bit, but I also assume the projection goes up a little bit on Jacoby Myers with no Brock Bowers. He's 5,600. What's our level of interest there?
Yeah, Jacoby Myers is always, rock solid floor, questionable ceiling, but no Brock Bowers. And this looks like a great spot for a ceiling game. The Colts are giving up a slate high 4.8 schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to slot wide receivers. That's where Jacoby Myers runs 51% of their his routes. It's also they're down to their 3rd string slot cornerback But it is Mike Hilton, who like I know is old, but he's probably like the best third string slot cornerback in NFL history. But still a really good matchup for Jacoby Myers. The stat that Jake Tribby keeps referencing is since Devontae Adams got traded, Jacoby Myers averages 9 targets per game, wide receiver 6, 72.3 yards per game, wide receiver 14. And so he's wide receiver 20 on DraftKings, wide receiver 21 on FanDuel. So good play. I think we could still maybe quibble with the upside, but this might be the best spot he has all year.
Yeah, I like that call out for Jacoby Myers. And the slot seems good. Man, somebody said something. I don't know if it was chat or you, but I was gonna anyway. I'll move on. People are also asking about Michael Pittman at 5,100. What's your level of interest there?
Yeah, so I think he's like he's on that Jacoby Myers, Cortland Sutton spectrum, where he's so rock steady, or like they're like random number generators, where like the min is set to 10 and the max is set to 18. So I do question the tournament winning ceiling. Although granted, I said the same thing about Drake London last week. So he's a good play. I think he's in play for cash. Probably not a guy that I would typically play. The other who Chad is asking about is Adonai Mitchell, who I don't know if he ever sees another snap again. That was just so.
It was such a sick play. That was like one of the best plays of the season before he dropped it.
I know. He's, and the ass is elite. It's like like a butterface, except it's just like only the ass is good and everything else is busted.
Yeah.
Is Adonai Mitchell, because like everything else is so busted, but he does get open.
Yeah, that that was just the spin, just everything about that play was so.
You
cool.
can't look your players in the eye if you give him snaps again this week.
The funny thing is, so like I just saw a replay of Justin Jefferson's first touchdown. He did the same thing where he like moved it to one hand. He just didn't drop it. So it's just like is his hands too small? I don't know what it is, but it's like it wasn't like he tried to drop the ball. It was just like he was trying to like do a celebration with the ball in one hand, and it slipped out. So like as far as boneheaded plays go at the end zone, like to me that was not on the level of players that just like try to drop the ball and they just do it an inch too early. Like to me that's like a whole different level. This was just he was celebrating, not even trying to drop the ball. It just slipped out of his hand. So I feel for him in that sense. But yeah, tough to get there on this slate. The other thing I was going to respond to is just you talking about going to the third string slot receiver. I was like, these spots were like, yeah, it seems like an upgrade for another player out, but because it was such a good spot already, it's just like I don't want to throw in another variable of like throwing in this wily vet who's probably better than actually the guy who was playing ahead of him potentially. So I don't know. I don't always love that when it was already a great spot and then you get an injury in there. To me, it just kind of
yeah. You know what? That's a good point. So I wrote that in the article and then I deleted it, but I think that's kind of the key thing there. So you can't like triple count it, and when in fact it might honestly be a negative because like
right.
You got it. You nailed
it. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's always like you're looking for like, oh, it's such a great spot, and then like people think like, oh, it just got even better, and it's like, well, it was already like the best possible spot, like so it probably didn't get better. If anything, it likely got worse. I just don't want those extra variables in there, and now it's like you said, like he's a veteran who like maybe he's good for just like a game at a time. He can't play like huge, have a huge workload throughout the season, but like maybe in a spot start he can still be elite. Anyway. Other spots we need to talk about. Wandale versus Darius Slayton. I thought that you were back. I thought you were in on Wandale finally this year, and now you called yourself a hater at the start of the show. Are we? So we're not in on Wandale now.
I don't know. I am batting 1,000 on him because his only ever good game came when I liked him. So here, let me take the wheel for a second.
Yeah.
I love Troy Franklin this week. I think he's one of the best plays on the entire slate. Again, like we keep finding value on a week where maybe we don't need a ton of it. But I haven't heard anyone else talk about him. He leads the league in screen targets. He has 3 more than any other player not named Jamar Chase with 9. Cortland Sutton is going to draw Quinyon Mitchell's shadow coverage. That's an absolutely brutal matchup. And Troy Franklin, a player I was pretty high on coming out, or at least the analytics really liked him. We are now seeing this wide receiver 2 role in Denver being a valuable role. Whereas before it was just like this gross committee that made no sense. But we have a 3-week sample size now where Troy Franklin led the team in targets in 2 of their last 3 games. Since week 2, leads in route share, leads in first read target share, leads in XFP per game. And so this looks like a funnel spot for him. So really good value. If you want to look at another 4K wide receiver with upside, there's Trey Tucker. The dude just dropped a 40 burger 2 weeks ago, and literally no one is playing him. 40 points 2 weeks ago, no one playing him. Indianapolis secondary, awful. Nearly just gave up a 40 burger to Puka Nacua. And this is me really tailing Joe Dolan, who writes a wide receiver versus cornerback matchup for us, and Stephen O'Rourke, who is like director of Ass for us, one of our best film analysts. Both singled him out, irrespective of each other, as a great play. So if you're an MME guy, for sure, sprinkle in some more Trey Tucker, give him a boost. And then beyond that, you have that cheap wide receiver range: Alec Ayomanor, Jake Tolbert, Darius Slayton, Malik Washington. You'll have to read the article to find out who my favorite is.
Okay. Anything else?
Really, the favorite is Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin's the favorite. So no, nothing to say about Darius Slayton or Wandale. They're like,
no, okay. Slayton was in the mix. Yeomanor, Tolbert, Slayton, Malik.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, any other receivers? Are we done?
No, I'm fading, by the way.
All right, Scott's fading. Let's get him through this. We're gonna go tight ends. We're gonna build some lineups. We're gonna be out of here in under 20 minutes from now. Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, both getting 21% ownership. Jake Ferguson, 16%. Brock Bowers is probably not going to play, so we're going to lose that. We're probably going to get to some more of the top. Let's talk about those top 3 options, though. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a fade? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, not playing Trey McBride just because he's the chalkiest tight end on the slate. It's also like, to me, Jake Ferguson is Trey McBride. In this role, PPR scam for days. Jake Ferguson is Trey McBride, just 1,000 cheaper. So I'm going to just not play Trey McBride, and I'm going to play more Jake Ferguson. Both are in great spots. But like I said, Dallas to me this year really looks like last year's Cincinnati Bengals. Tyler Warren, a great play. He's basically Brock Bowers. He's almost a lock to be 1,800 more expensive at the end of the season, whatever it is. So why not play him this week in a great matchup? So he's in play. He's just, very chalky. And then there's a bunch of value guys I like.
With Taysom Hill and I forget the other tight end there on New Orleans, both returning this week. Is Juwan Johnson going to lose any of his role? Do you think? Do you have any interest there?
I could see it. I would just say check our projections Sunday morning. We'll have a better read on it then. We'll work through it as news comes. We talk to our insiders. Sam
Laporta in those stacks with Jared Goff and or on his own. How much interest?
Yeah, he kind of annoys me. He's had only 4 targets in 3 straight games, and Amon-Ra has really been the focal point inside the end zone. But this was really the matchup we circled coming into the year, also coming into last year, and at the end of it. Bengals have the worst, slowest linebackers and safeties. So every offensive coordinator, when they're facing the Bengals, is just like slaps their tight end on the ass, and it's like, hey, you're gonna have a big game this week. So he has that going for him, and yeah, for sure, good play.
Mason Taylor, not chalky against this Dallas defense. How much interest there?
Yeah, he should be chalky. He should be 20%. So obviously like him as a great play. 30 also potentially leverage against Garrett Wilson, maybe 33% first read target share in week 4. Finished second on the team in routes, receiving yards. Aaron Glenn, just days before was like, oh, we're going to get him way more involved. He did have that ankle injury to start the year. And this is a great matchup. Malik Hooker's out. This is a great schematic matchup against zone coverage. So yeah, I think 4% stupid. He should be 20%, and he's a great play.
I assume we're going back to the Tommy Tremble well again.
Well, the only problem is Mason Taylor is cheaper, and he's a freaking awesome play.
Okay.
So I don't like him as much as Mason Taylor, but Yeah, it's the same thesis, which proved to be true last week. He caught 5 of 7 targets for 42 yards and a touchdown, came inches from another touchdown. And then he also had 4.9 fantasy points wiped off the board due to a penalty. So even with Xavier Legette, who's terrible, coming back, I think he's a really strong value.
In the interest of time, do you want to take the wheel again?
I don't know that there's anyone, just Zach Ertz, obviously, Terry McLaurin out, Noah Brown out, should be force fed the ball. It's a tight end funnel matchup on paper anyway. He also has a little bit more of a ceiling than he gets credit for, just based on recent production and whatnot. But yeah, not super high on my list.
All right. I'm going to set up and start building some lineups here.
Yeah, let's do only one lineup. I apologize, but I got to get something to eat.
All right. We're going to build a lineup. So then we'll just go straight to our favorite lineup, which I know we want to go to. I'm certain that we want to go to. Bryce Young, not Jared Goff.
Well, Jared Goff is my favorite, but
yeah, let's do Jared Goff. He's your favorite. And I like Jared Goff quite a bit too.
Okay. All right, let's do 2 lineups then. You talked me into it.
All right, we're doing 2 lineups. We're going to make them quick. We're doing Jared Goff. Are we doing JMO?
The thing is, like, this isn't fun for the viewers. Like, I just onslaught, just every Lion you could think of.
All right, every Lion that I can think of.
You can even play the defense.
You go Gibbs. We're going to go Demont.
St. Brown.
Amon-Ra.
Jameson.
We're going to go JMO. We're going to go
Laporta.
I mean, this is insane.
Don't actually do this. Don't actually do this.
No, I don't know if you can. I think you can only play up to. I guess this is 6. So yeah, I think you can.
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll have to remove some of those, but we still have 45-33 left for players.
So I would take Gibbs out. I would take either Laporta or one of the wide receivers out. Probably Laporta.
Okay. Do we want any Cincinnati bring back?
I kind of don't think so.
All right, running backs. Rico Dowdle.
We've seen it too many times with the Lions where it just doesn't matter what the other team does. They're just they don't need to be throwing touchdown passes in the 4th quarter, but they do.
Yeah. Rico Dowdle, I believe you called the best play on the slate, and Nico Collins, I believe you also called the best wide receiver play on the slate.
GPP play.
Yeah, favorite GPP play. So this is working out pretty well here. At tight end, Mason Taylor.
Sure.
I'm just building a Scott-ass lineup right now.
Here, go to defense and scroll all the way down. We didn't talk defense.
Yeah, we didn't.
I will say Giants are the chalk, but I think I like Texans more. Or Saints are the chalk. I like Texans more, though. Because that's actually good defense.
Then we have too much money left over. We can play whoever we want here and then upgrade somewhere else. Who would be your, Devin Achane?
So Taylor to Ferguson.
Yeah. Good call. Jake Ferguson. Oh, and then we're 100 short of Devin Achane in the flex.
All right, so drop back down to.
We could do JSN though.
Oh, boom! This is gonna win us $1 million, dude.
We just won $1 million while Scott is starving. All right, there we go. Got Jared Goff with Dave Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and JMO. Got Rico Dowdle, Nico Collins, Jake Ferguson, JSN, Texans defense. Boom. All right, we're doing one more. We're gonna do a stack of. That's not what I want to do.
Well, now you're gonna win $1.1 million.
Yeah, now I'm only sharing that lineup with you, and then I'm winning the rest with the other lineups, and I really just screwed you.
Damn.
We're going Bryce Young.
Young, Dowdle, Tet, Tremble.
Ooh, okay, we're doing another onslaught. I like it.
Well, you don't need to. I mean, you have the flexibility to take one of those guys out. Achane or Waddle. Achane or Waddle. I prefer Achane, I think.
Yeah, I prefer Achane. Tremble. All right, that sets up nicely. We've got a lot of salary left over. Defense, we can go back to the Texans as a starting place. we have a ton of money left over now. So we can play Amon-Ra again and JSN.
And Nico. No one's
All
gonna
three
have
of them?
that. Yeah, no one's gonna have that.
Nico. And then we have 900 left over. Do we want to upgrade defense?
All right, yeah.
or-
So take out Nico, throw in Gibbs, throw in.
I mean, Gibbs fits perfect. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Gibbs, where we don't have Montgomery. Boom.
Yeah, so we have that. So we have the opposite. Oh well, we have St. Brown and Gibbs, but I think that's fine.
Yeah, no, totally fine. Yeah, that's a nice looking lineup. Bryce Young, with Rico Dowdle, Tet McMillan, Tommy Tremble. We've got the bringback of Devin Achane, Amon-Ra St. Brown, JSN, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Texans defense again. There you go. Another millie for us. All right, that is going to do it. Scott needs to go get some food. Thanks, Scott. Thanks everybody for watching. Scott, what else do you have coming up for the rest of the week?
Johnny show. I'll be in Discord. Gonna watch the UFC fights tonight. Very excited about that. What about you?
Love it. The usuals. Yeah, I've got a Sims video coming out in the Flannelverse in 15 minutes. And then I'll be back tomorrow. Fantasy Point Sunday Night Football article back before that game with the Sunday Night Football breakdown as well. Actually, I'll probably be going either live or video as well for the Sunday morning football again. It's annoying from a content perspective, but I'll be doing something to break down the Vikings game on my channel as well. Yeah, that's where you'll find me. All right, everybody, let us know what if you win your best lineup with plays from the show. Let us know on Twitter. Give us a shout, and we can send the biggest winner some merchandise. Thanks, everybody. Make sure you sign up at Fantasy Points. We will see you next week. Good luck.
What?
Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.